Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero.com. I'm Ryan, the CEO and founder here at NameHero, and today I want to walk you through on how to set up a VPS with the InterWorx control panel. So if you've been following our blog, we just recently announced that the InterWorx control panel now comes free on all of our VPS hosting packages. And of course, we've had a lot of feedback from this post. Some customers are kind of getting confused with VPS and shared and reseller and our deal with cPanel and all that. Just as a little disclaimer here, that nothing has changed with our basic hosting, our reseller hosting packages. You know, we're not changing over or swapping control panels or anything. InterWorx is just another option that's on all of our VPS hosting packages, and it's free. So let me go over here to our VPS hosting page and show you. If I click right here, you can see these are the 4 VPS packages that we offer, and these are bundled all together with space, RAM, bandwidth, CPU cores, and all the stuff that you need. So on each one of these, you can get a free InterWorx license. Now, if you want to use cPanel Web Host Manager, of course, that's still an option because I still consider it to be one of the best control panels out there. So you can still license your VPS with that. The only change is how many accounts that you need, and I'll walk you through that here in just a second. So first off, here are the VPS hosting packages, and you can see the page looks very much the same. We also have the ability now to build out your own. So, if these specs don't meet your standards, you can build out your own. There is a charge for InterWorx when you build out your own, just because it's not packaged all together. The price is 0.00, and then as you add RAM, as you add disk space, as you add your control panel, then the price builds up for that. But that's just a little side note. I think most of our customers want to start with one of the packages that are bundled. Now, if I scroll down here, you can see we've kind of updated our VPS hosting page to include the InterWorx logo, and it's kind of overall what we offer that's bundled inside of the standard price. Of course, if you do want cPanel and Web Host Manager, that's absolutely fine. You can just select it on the next page, and I'll show you that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test on the Hero 2 GB. This is a great VPS option, really for developers. 2 GB of RAM is not a whole lot. If it was me and I was, putting a production site on it, I would go with the 4 GB, especially if you're going to do more than one website, and then, you can go on up from here. I like the Hero 6 GB, especially for reselling if you're going to have multiple accounts. But the Hero 2 GB is good to test. And again, since we are on the cloud here, you have the option to scale up as you need resources, and that's done without a migration or anything. So, this is good maybe to get your feet wet. But again, we have updated everything that, so what you see on here is including that InterWorx license. So if I go to order now, you can see we changed this a couple months ago, that when you hover over each billing cycle, it shows the price. And here at NameHero, we reward customers for the longer they sign up, the cheaper the rate is. And you can see this rate here is with the discount applied. So right now we're running our fall sale with 25% off, and this is a one-time coupon. So the longer you sign up, the more that coupon is going to apply and the more you're going to save. So I know we often get questions on that, and when it comes to renewal time, people are a little confused. So just keep that in mind. The longer you sign up, the more you're going to save. So for my test here, I'm just going to collect 1 month. And here we go. So now I've got my option to register a new domain or transfer or use my existing. So this is the primary domain for your VPS. So all VPSs, you've got to have a set of name servers. And most of our customers, they want the private ones. That's one of the reasons why they're going with the VPS. And so that's why we need a domain name. So most likely, this is the domain you're going to use for your private name servers. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to set those up. So I'm going to use an existing domain I already have in my NameHero account. If you don't have one, again, you can register or transfer one. Or if you have a domain at another registrar and you want to just handle it on that end, you can. Now, this tutorial is going to show you how to set up and register name servers, assuming your domain's with us here at NameHero. That does make your life a lot easier, having your name and hosting all together with us, because our support team can also support everything. But I understand some people want to keep domains at GoDaddy or Namecheap, and they want to keep their hosting at NameHero, which is fine, but you just have to do the registration process for the name servers over at your other control panel. All right, so my test domain is keydiets.com. I'm going to click use. Once again, this is already in my NameHero account. And now I can check out my server here or finish configuring it. So just kind of a highlight of what we've already discussed. I have 30 gigabytes of storage, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 10 terabytes of bandwidth, 2 CPU cores. It comes with free and auto SSL, CentOS 7, DDoS protection, and it's fully managed. So the next thing is I need to enter a name for my server. So you can see the kind of demo text in here, or example text is servername.yourdomain.com. So when you're creating a VPS, you have to name it, and you can see some are pre-populating there. So whatever you want to call your VPS. So, let's just call it ryantest.keydiets.com. So this just has to be a unique name for your host name. It can't be just the domain. If you use just the domain, then it's actually going to automatically create the domain.thedomain.com. So you don't want to do that. So make sure you enter in a real unique host name. And again, this is just the name of the server. It could be server 1, it could be alpha, alpha beta, anything like that. It doesn't really matter, but it needs to be something unique. Next is your root password, and this needs to be strong. Please use lowercase, capital, uppercase, numbers, and a couple special characters. Don't make it really long, but make it pretty long and impossible to guess. That's the thing here. You want to make it impossible to guess. So I'm just going to a really strong one. You can Google password generator too if you want to make a strong one in there as well. But you don't want to be able to remember this. This is something you want to write down and have. You don't want your root password to be guessable. Okay, next is our name server prefixes. So I talked about your private name servers. And again, this is why a lot of people want their own VPS or their own server, so they have private name servers. So the default here is just NS1 and NS2. And that's 9 out of 10 of you. That's what you want to do unless you specifically know what you're doing. Just enter that. Okay, so now we come down to the control panel option. So if I click the drop down here, you can see that InterWorx allows for unlimited accounts, and it's on CentOS fully managed. If you don't want to use InterWorx and you want to use Web Host Manager, you can see you still have those options here. Now remember, cPanel recently said that they no longer consider one license for the entire server. So it used to be, one cPanel license that just filled the whole server, so you could create whatever, like you can with InterWorx. But now they're saying that you can only create a specific number of accounts. So now it's licensed for 5 accounts, 30, 50, or 100. And of course, if you need more than 100, reach out to our sales team and we'll be sure to hook you up. But what we did on here is these are actually about 50%, or might be right at 50% off cPanel's price. So we didn't, we felt, or I felt personally, that cPanel's licensing fee was a little bit hefty. So we try to make this easier by absorbing some of that cost for you. So you're not paying the default cPanel price. We are discounting that as part of our package for you. So keep that in mind. But this is, if you want to create 5 accounts, it'd be $10 a month. 30, it's $15 a month. 50, it's $20 a month. And 100 is $30 a month. Once again, if you were to go with cPanel Direct, these prices are quite much more expensive. And I think for the 100, it's 45. I think for the 50, it's at 40. I think, the 30 is 30, and the 50, that's only available to their partners, and I think the 5 is 20. So, they've taken the prices up a good bit. So anyways, that's what you want to do if you want cPanel and Web Host Manager. Again, the purpose of this video is InterWorx, but I did want to take time to explain that, and I'll probably explain it more in more videos as well. So, and this is the amount of monthly bandwidth. You can do 10 terabytes for free, 15 for 50 a month, or 20 for 100 a month. We're on the cloud. You can add this at any time. 10 is going to be plenty. I very rarely see people reach a bandwidth quota nowadays. Number of IPs. 1 IP comes standard. For most of you, that's probably going to be fine. If you want to add, you can add as many as 10, and this is the monthly price. Again, you can always add these later, but 1 will get you started. 2 is $250 additional, but 1 should be just fine. Your backup plan, these are off-site, off-server backups. So each night your server will be backed up in the state it's in, and then you can restore these from your control panel. But these are full server backups. These aren't just an individual account. So keep that in mind. But just in case, your server would God forbid, get hacked, you could go back and restore from a previous backup. Now, these will store as long as you have quota. So if I was to enable this, I could select my quota, whether it be 100 gigabytes, $250 or $500, and these are monthly prices, and your backups will continue to go each day until you reach your quota. I think the maximum number of days of retention is 90, and after that it starts to shed automatically. But most people, 100 gigabytes, that's good for 15 to 30 days, depending on how big your sites are. But these are optional. I always like backups, but if you say, well, $15 a month's kind of high for me, that's fine. Just keep your own backups or have a backup system in place. And the cool thing is, if you're using InterWorx, they give you the ability to back up accounts automatically each night, and you can send them different places. Okay, down on the list here is Cloudflare with Railgun. So if you want to add Cloudflare to your VPS, it's a one-time setup fee of $29.95, and our team will actually go into your server and make sure it's set up and configured for you. I'm going to do another video tutorial on Cloudflare, so I'm going to go ahead and select this option. Cloud Linux OS, it is supported with InterWorx, and of course it's fully supported with cPanel, but they're still finalizing some things with putting the LVE manager inside of the SiteWorks control panel. So if you want Cloud Linux, great, and it will work with NodeWorx, or InterWorx rather, but the LVE manager is not perfectly integrated with SiteWorks yet. But by the time, if you're watching this video after October 2019, it's probably already in there. But if not, then it's they're working on it. But it still will work. But that's up to you if you want to add Cloud Linux. For this demo, I'm not. So I'm going to go and continue. And again, you can always add Cloud Linux later. You don't have to add it necessarily the first day. Okay, so now I can review everything. You can see the discount code brings it down a little bit here. So I've got $17.49 in discounts. I did sign up for the month-to-month price, so it's more expensive. If I sign up for a year, it's discounted way more than this. So just keep that in mind too. The longer you sign up, the more you're going to save with us here at NameHero. And again, this is a one-time discount. So the next month it rebills at the normal rate, which you can see the total is $69.95. Today is a little bit more expensive because I'm going to get the one-time setup fee of Cloudflare. And then, of course, the $69.95 includes those backups for $15 a month that I threw in there. And so now I can go to checkout and enter my information. So as soon as I enter all my personal information in here and go down here and make my payment, the VPS is going to spin up and it will be online. So what I'm going to do is pause this video really quick, and I'm going to fill out all my stuff here and put my order through. Once my VPS is online, I'm going to resume this video, and I'm going to show you how to add your first account to InterWorx, and also show you how to register those private name servers, because that's going to be an important step of deploying your VPS. Just one moment while I do that. All right, so now my VPS is online and deployed. I had to stop this for a little longer than I wanted to, but it actually deployed in about 6 to 10 minutes. Your VPS with NameHero, it should spin right on up in that amount of time. If it takes longer than that, that might mean that we're just we have to process your order manually. Some things might come along that we need to verify additional. So if that happens, please have some patience. We'll get it online as quickly as possible. Most of the time, it's within 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so once my server is online, I'm going to go to I'm on my dashboard, so I'm going to go in and find it. So I've got a demo account, so I've got a couple, but the one I just deployed was ryantest.keydiets.com. So I'm going to click on the link there. And you're going to notice it's red because no SSL is detected. So I'll show you here in this initial setup how we fix that and get everything good with SSL. Let's give it a second here. All right, so this is the overview for our server. And if we scroll down, there's some important things. One is the login details. So this pops up, and this is that password that you created. It's also going to have the default username for NodeWorx. So you'll see the NodeWorx link here. NodeWorx, and again, this is your root password. NodeWorx is the master control panel for InterWorx. So if you're familiar with Web Host Manager and cPanel, NodeWorx is the equivalent to Web Host Manager. So that's where you're going to log in to set up all your sites, manage your server, and everything like that. And so that's what these details are going to go to. So if you click this, you'll see your username and your password that you set up. Again, you do have to have two-factor enabled at NameHero in order to view these in your client area. So I make sure that only you see those, because it's very important to keep safe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on NodeWorx, because that's what I need to do the first step. And also there's all the other information about your servers here. Your host name, IP, and name servers. You can start it or shut it down or reboot it or look at the backups and restore those. But we'll get to all that later. I just want to go into NodeWorx and I want to begin my initial configuration here. So 1 second, I got to grab my password. I've got it in another window here. All right, so you want to log in. Again, the default email is going to be just contact@namehero.com. And I'll show you how to change that. And then the password, the root password that you created. And once again, these will be right inside of login details. So click login. And once I bring up NodeWorx for the first time, it looks like this. I actually got in here clicking around before I started the video, but it actually looks like this here once you first log inside of NodeWorx. But the first thing you'll want to do is change this default user here. So if you click edit here, you can then change this to your email address, and you can change it to your name, or you can leave it server admin. It's up to you, really. You know, you can change your language or even your theme and all that stuff. And if you want to modify your root password, that's completely appropriate to do. You know, some people like to change that just because it, you know, first time logging in, why not change it? So it's up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and close out of this because I want to keep that all default. All right, so now that our VPS is online and perhaps you've changed your email address and you're all set here and you want to get your first website online, the first thing we need to do is we have to set up our private name servers. So if you remember back here, we said ns1 and ns2.keydiets was going to be our name servers. So I need to set up a SiteWorx account for keydiets so I can set up my DNS and all that stuff. So if I click this drop down by SiteWorx, it says accounts, shell users, packages, backup, import, and Softaculous. I'm going to click on accounts, and you can see there's not any because it's a brand new VPS. So what I want to do is add SiteWorx account, and I want to add keydiets.com. So add keydiets.com. I only have one IP address of this VPS, so it's of course shared. If I want to get a dedicated, I can order one from us here at NameHero, or you could also have ordered one during the initial sign up. We're not using IP6 yet. The database server is local. This is just going to be a random generated username for the account. Feel free to change or modify it. Me personally, it looks good to me. The nickname, you can call this keydiets or whatnot. I think this is, it says a nickname can be given to each SiteWorx account holder. It's field's optional. I know from my experience when I'm migrating over cPanel accounts, it assigns them whatever the username in cPanel was. So it's up to you, you know, if you want to use that or not. Email address, I'm just going to use mine, Ryan@namehero.com. And you want to generate a nice, secure, strong password. You know, play around with this a little bit, make sure it's a good one, and make sure you do write this down. I guess you could always change it, but anyways, use the password generator. Define the language, the theme, menu style. So I'm just keeping all this stuff pretty much default. If you want to change this up, go ahead. But since this is going to be our primary domain, you know, I'm not worried about like billing day because obviously it's just my account. Additional IPs, I don't have any, so I don't have to worry about that. If I go to PHP options, you're going to see by default it's going to be using 7.2.2, but I can change it for this site for any of these. Also, if I want to use the PHP selector, and again, this is my primary domain, so I'm just pretty much default, but if I wanted to, you know, make sure I could select between 7.2 and 7.3, I could use this option here. So again, that's up to you, especially if you're creating for a customer. You'd obviously want them to maybe use more than one version of PHP. But again, this is my default domain. I just want it pretty much all standard. So I'm not going to even worry about the features and options and all that stuff. So I'm just going to save it. And again, I will do other video tutorials while I walk through this in a long fashion, and we exhaust everything, all these options. But again, for my initial setup, I just want my primary domain online, and then I can always go back and modify it later. Okay, so now keydiets.com is added to the server, and so we need to add these private name servers. So what I want to do is I want to log into SiteWorx. So again, SiteWorx is the similar to cPanel. So SiteWorx, cPanel, NodeWorx Web Host Manager. I'm going to keep saying that and over again just so we can make that relationship, since a lot of our audience is coming over from using Web Host Manager and cPanel. So I'll go to SiteWorx. And I need to go to DNS records. So the first time you pull this up, it probably looks like this. So your main dashboard here. And so you want to go under hosting features, and then under domains, it's going to look like this. Under domains, go to DNS records. Okay, so this is your DNS, and click view records. Okay, so we need to add DNS records for our name servers. That's going to be our first step. So if I go over to manage and add a new A record, click go. Now I can add it inside of here. So I've got keydiets.com. The record is going to be ns1 dot, and then I need to grab this IP. So I'm just going to grab it from right here, copy, paste it, and save. All right, so now I've got this new record, ns1.keydiets.com, and it goes to that A record. And I want to go ahead and grab this, the second one. So the second one, I'm going to use the same IP since I only have one on here. Okay, IP address, paste, and ns2.keydiets.com, save it. All right, so now that is added in there. So now I've got my NS1 and NS2. I've got A records added. So now I'm going to go back into SiteWorks, back into here. And if I go over to, I will see this in my under configure or system services, DNS server. I'll see an overview. And what I do is just confirm that this is all here. So in my overview of the DNS, I see that I've got, these are already set up correctly, the primary and the secondary. You don't have to worry about changing your TTL values. I leave those defaults. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can go mess with them, but I don't really recommend it. And of course, if you go to zones, you can see you've got a DNS template. And so this is for all the accounts that you create. You can make sure that you can actually make a template that will follow this format here. So if you want to modify any of this, I personally don't recommend it, but I don't recommend it unless you know specifically what you're doing. It is handy if you do know what you're doing, but if you don't, then you might not want to mess with the default template. Okay, so now if we click on records for key diets, then we verify as well that our A records are added. So of course they are, NS1 and NS2. Okay, so now we have set up our private name servers on the VPS. Now we need to register these with our domain registrar. That's the way that the domain registrar knows these belong to us. So we're going to go back to NameHero. And this is why I said while we were ordering or spinning up the VPS that I prefer you to have your domain at NameHero, not because I'm excited over that $12.98 a year or whatnot. More as a fact that it's just easier to do it all in this interface. If you have your domain at GoDaddy, that's fine, but you have to go through their interface to register your name servers. And I know all of them are different, and I know all of them change, including ours. So if I go to Domains, so My Domains, I'm going to look for key diets, which is right here. And I'm going to go to private name servers right here. And it's going to bring up the area to where I can register them. So right here is where I can do this information. So I'm going to go back over here and grab my IP address again. And I need to bind the IP for NS1 to here. So I'm registering ns1.keydiets.com with this IP. I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to do NS2 with the same IP and save it. Okay, so now you've set up your VPS to have the appropriate A records, and now you've also binded them to the registrar. Now, if you are currently using these name servers, obviously you wouldn't want to go do any of this or update your name servers until you migrate your data. So make sure you get a hold of our support team if you're wanting to do that. I know some people, if they're spinning up a new VPS, some will even just use a unique domain for it. But it's just important that, when you're making DNS changes, that you could overwrite something if you don't have your data migrated. All right, so now that they're registered, the A records are set up, I want to click on name servers here, and I want to switch my keydiets.com domain to use these name servers. So right now I've just got them defaulted here to NameHero. I want to do this here. And once again, if this is Key Diets is not a live site for me. If it was a live site, then I would obviously want to make sure my data is migrated and all of that before I go changing these or anything like that, because then it could send my site offline. I'm just assuming here that everything is fresh and everything is new to show from the beginning. If you're needing a migration or something, ask our team, we'll help you. But it's pretty much the same process, but you just don't want to change your name servers until you have data. Okay, so now these are set up and we should be all set. So now inside of, I'm going back in here to NodeWorx. Inside of NodeWorx, if I click SiteWorks, I can see that Key Diets is now online and it's set up. And if I click it, it should go to the site. But since I just did DNS changes, sometimes that can take about an hour, up to an hour, sometimes even 24 hours, especially if you've already been to it today or been to it in the last week. And this period is called DNS propagation. So if immediately after doing what I just showed you, setting up the name servers inside of NodeWorx, registering them on the registrar, and then changing them, if your domain's not immediately active, don't freak out. Go get some coffee, take a couple-hour break, and then come back to finish setting up your website. And I'll just go ahead and risk it here and see. Yeah, it's not working yet for me. It says key diets cannot be found because I just changed it. So I need to give it some time. But there is one more thing that I want to show you before I complete this tutorial, and it is setting up your SSL for your host name. So I just logged out. Let's log myself out. 1 second. Let me get back in here. So the last thing that I would like to do here is show you how to do that, just so when the DNS propagates, we're all good, and then I'll resume on how to do the host name. So I'm going to log back into NodeWorx. And remember, this is our email address that we either changed or left the same in the beginning, and the password that we had. And I want to go back to under SiteWorks and accounts, and I want to add an account for my host name. So if I go back to my client area, you can see my host name was Ryan Test. And again, this is why you probably want to make the name of the server, something that makes sense. Ryan Test is kind of silly, but it's up to you. But you're going to add an account here, so we have an SSL certificate for it. So under accounts, we're going to go to add SiteWorks account. And just like we did before, we're going to add one specifically for the host name. And again, the reason why we're doing this is so we can use the free Let's Encrypt SSL on our host name. So that way we have a SSL certificate on our host name. It's free. And then we also can have, obviously, SSL on all of our other domains. But this is how I like to do it. You can go off and buy a premium SSL certificate for your host name. You can go get a extended validation certificate, or you can do it for free with Let's Encrypt. That's how I recommend it, but it's up to you. Anyways, this account, the only reason why I'm setting it up even is for the SSL, so I don't really care too much about all this stuff. But it is going to make me put my email, and I have to generate a password, and I'll just leave all the other stuff default and save. Okay, and just going to take a second to go in here, and then we'll be all set. So now, once this saves here, at this point, there's nothing else to do until DNS propagates. Once DNS propagates, then we can go in and configure our SSL certificates using Let's Encrypt, and I can show you how to have all of that done. So actually, instead of ending this, let me just pause this, and I'll resume this once the DNS is propagating, and just show you how to finish that up really quick. But all right, so once your domain propagates, it looks like this. This is the default InterWorx page, or SiteWorks page rather. Just these gears going. So once you can see this, that means DNS is propagated and you're all set to continue. So we left off right here, just after we added our hostname account and our main domain. So we have two accounts now on our VPS. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to install SSL. And again, you need to make sure that your DNS is propagated before doing this, or you could get some errors. So what I want to do is log into the SiteWorks account for key diets, because that's the first one I want to do. So if I click SiteWorks, it'll log me on in here. And under hosting features, domains, SSL is where we're going to go. Okay, so you can see now we can generate everything with Let's Encrypt. But I think I need to set up my private key first before I can do this. So let's set up private key. And I don't have one, so I'm just going to generate it. And it goes ahead and creates. My certificate signing request, I don't need this. Now, if I was going to go get a extended validation certificate or a paid SSL, I would need a CSR, but I'm not going to need one, so I'm not going to even worry about that for now. And so we'll just generate off Let's Encrypt. And it might do its own private key too. I might not even have to do the first one. Okay, so what you want to do here is you have the common name. So this is going to be the common name in the certificate. And it explains it here a little bit more that, please select the domain name this certificate will use. If you not see your desired domain, you'll need to add it as a pointer or as a subdomain in SiteWorks. www.domain is not the same as domain.com. A wildcard domain begins with an asterisk and is valid for all subdomains. So it's got all that information there. But for your first go around here, you wanted to choose key diets. And I like to have my alternative to www, or actually you can use it on any of these. I'm going to use my select button here. The name server doesn't need one. Key diets, mail.keydiets, you can just select that. And don't worry about the name servers. Email address, just the same one you've got in there. And generate. And again, so this is taking Let's Encrypt free SSL certificates and it's deploying it to your website. The prerequisite is, though, that DNS is propagating, and you can see this page here. Now, if your DNS also just started propagating, there's a chance that Let's Encrypt might not be able to connect correctly. But you can see mine, it did. So everything is now installed, and we have SSL on the site. So now if I go back to key diets, I should be able to enter HTTPS and see a secure lock. Yes, I do. So now you can see there's a secure certificate installed, and I'm up and running like a champ. So that's how we get SSL on our primary domain. Okay, so now let's go back and get it set up on our server host name. And so this way is, if I wanted to access SiteWorx or NodeWorx, instead of using this IP address here with the self-signed certificate, I could actually use my host name. So let's go set that one up. I need to log out of the SiteWorx here and go back to my account list. And again, if you're following along, this is under SiteWorx accounts. And Ryan Test, remember that was my host name. So I'm going to go to that SiteWorx. And I've got to generate the SSL for this. So I'm going to go to the same place. Hosting features, domains, SSL. And let's try it without the private key. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, Ryan Test. And I'm not going to worry about any of alternatives for this one. And just generate, because I just want from my main host name. Let's give it a second here while Let's Encrypt does its thing. Now, if it is to fail, there is logs in SiteWorx. That's what I really like. I don't think cPanel shows the logs inside of cPanel. I know they do Web Host Manager, but I don't think cPanel. Okay, so now I can see that they are all installed. And yeah, I didn't need a CSR, and it did the private key for me. So we're all set. And you can see over here, this shows you the overview. The common name, alternative names, company, issued by Let's Encrypt, issued on, and all this stuff. So now I've got an SSL certificate generated for my host name. Now, really quick, I'm going to log out, and I just shut it down because I just got a new SSL. So 1 second here. All right, I'm back in. So I don't know what happened. I got kicked into maintenance mode there and I had to refresh it a couple times to get back in. But anyway, so in the previous, I just did the SSL certificates for both of my accounts. One's going to be for my host name and the other for my domain. So now what I want to do is I want to copy and paste this SSL certificate for my host name over into NodeWorx, so NodeWorx can actually use that SSL certificate. So what I want to do is grab that in SiteWorx. So I'm just going to open that in a new tab. So I'll go back here to SiteWorx for my host name, ryantest.keydiets. Go over here to SSL, and I've got the option here to view the key and view the certificate. So what I want to do is I want to view the private key, go back over here to SiteWorx, and under System Services, go down to SSL, and I'm sorry, it's actually in, I thought it was SSL in here. Nope. Over here. Nope. Right here, under server. Okay, sorry, it's going to take me a little bit to get familiar with this menu. So it's under server and SSL is where you're going to see the certificate. So you can see right here, the web server default is just a template. And the InterWorx SSL is from InterWorx, and FTP's local self-signed, and then the SMTP and the IMAP and POP are also local self-signed. So what I can do is I can use this certificate for my host name and use it on these services. So what I want to do is update service certificates. It's just the button right up here at the top. And from here, I want to choose copy and paste. And what I can do then is take this private key. And again, don't show your private key. I'm going to terminate this whole server once we're finished. So, but yeah, you don't want people to hijack your stuff. So there's the private key, and then we will cancel this, not delete it. And then we'll grab the SSL certificate, and we'll copy and paste everything from end to beginning. Just make sure you don't get any of the stuff on the left. Copy it, paste that in there, and then we'll grab the chain. Hit cancel here, and we'll do the chain here. And we'll copy this and then paste this in here. We're going to use this for all the services. Yes, we're going to go ahead and restart them and save. Hopefully we don't kick it into maintenance mode again. And so anyways, this is going to give us SSL on our host name now. And then if we need to use the host name for any of the other services, for say FTP or for IMAP or POP or SMTP, for example, if we are setting up customers and before they set up Let's Encrypt, if they wanted to, use our host name SSL certificate, they could. So now it's going ahead and adding, and it just takes a little bit for it to go through and populate through all of this. Now this is one thing that I've mentioned personally to the InterWorx team. I'd like to see this automated. cPanel and Web Host Manager, they do automate this now. It automatically generates your certificates when you first update cPanel for the first time, but they don't yet. But you can see now we are all set here, and now I should be able to go to Ryan test. Use this instead of my IP address. And again, if it's not, it might not immediately be available. So we'll just try it anyways. As you can see on this live video, I'm not scared to do anything. Yeah, so it's still not showing up here. It will take some time to show in this browser. It would show if I used another browser, but just because I just did it, it's not going to show. And it's actually probably going to even kick me out when I try to go to log back in, because it's going to stay unsafe. If I go to certificate, yes, I'm still seeing this old certificate. So this has got to refresh. If I hard cache refresh it, it might, but in some time this will switch back out to what it should be. And then you'll have access to your SSL on the host name and your domain. So that's it. That's how you set up your VPS using InterWorx. If I head back over here to our client area right here, this again shows you all how the VPS is running. So if you're a current VPS customer at NameHero, if you're familiar with this, this is where you monitor everything. You should never have to use start or shut down. Reboot sometimes if you really get hung and you need to do a hard reboot, you can do it here. Again, this is your NodeWorx login link, and this will always go to the IP address, even if you do what we just did, setting up the certificate host name. It's still going to resolve to this because that's called the temporary link. History, this shows the history of the VPS just shows kind of the history of, when you created it and stuff, create server. Sometimes these notifications aren't always in real time. So if you see sometimes, an error message, most of the time it was just cleared out if you didn't notice anything. But going back into here, the last thing I want to mention is the backups. So if I go over here, block storage is irrelevant because I haven't added any block storage, and most likely you haven't either because that's a custom feature. If I click on backups, over time, these will start to populate if I ordered them. Now you can see I don't have any backups yet because it hasn't run. It runs once every 24 hours. So I ordered 100 gigabytes of space. So it will store backups until I reach that 100 gigabytes of quota. Then after that, you'll start shedding them as it moves along. So, but these are where those will be. And again, these are full server backups. So if I come in here and see them, I can restore them from here, but it is going to restore the entire server to the previous backup or to whenever you select. So any changes you made between the backup and now would be lost. So just keep that in mind. I know some of our customers, that they're uncertain of that. It's full server backup. So, but that pretty much covers it all. InterWorx is great software. It's easy to work with. It's fairly straightforward. The only thing that me personally, I would like to see the hostname SSL be a little bit simpler. But again, using Let's Encrypt, it's still free. So I can remember days not that long ago, even with cPanel Web Host Manager, we had to go buy hostname certificates. Using Let's Encrypt, you don't have to do that anymore. So it's all pretty straightforward and done for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. On our YouTube channel, we're going to be having a lot more InterWorx videos, trainings, tutorials, and all that. Once again, it is just available on our VPS hosting, so you're not going to see InterWorx on our basic and reseller at this time. Not to say you won't see it ever, but if you're using cPanel, we're not going to forcefully change you. So please, I'll dismiss that rumor right now. If you have any other questions, though, feel free to let us know. Thanks so much for using NameHero.com.